That is the only reason I'm making videos at all, is because of Jimmy DiResta. And I veered, when I met him, I told him that, and he kind of looked at me strange, and I said, well, yeah, I veered off now. We're doing things differently. But that was my jumping platform. And it's the motivation that matters, you know? You don't have to do the same thing. It's the motivation. You look at something and you go, okay, I think I can do that. You know, somebody watches one of my videos and it's a disaster, and at the end you kind of pull it together and go, well, you know, here's what we made out of it. And they go, yeah, I can do that. We could try it. And I hear that all the time from people. You know, I'm started making because of your failures. And that's cool, nice to hear. So
great reason,
yeah.
Oh, it's me? Well, I always like to make videos, and I don't know why I had to make videos. And I like to make stuff as well, but I didn't know what to make and for who. So I put the two things together, and it worked out pretty good. And of course, Jimmy was for me a good inspiration too. I was actually asking him his permission to make a YouTube channel, and he said, yeah, go ahead and do it. So here I am. So is Jimmy.
Everything is Jimmy's fault. I was writing software and was just kind of sick of being at the computer all the time. So I started making a blog and was trying to make these projects and take pictures, and it was super tedious to like make something and then stop and take photos, and you know. And then I realized that video was a way I could just like set up a camera and just make the thing, and the camera would capture all of the process. And then it's just been like running downhill since then.
Well, so I went to work for my brother 3-ish years ago. He has a very small YouTube channel called Homemade Modern, and I actually went there to be his lackey and sand things and be off camera, and he was like, no, you're making videos. And I was like, you know what, I really don't like being in front of a camera or talking in front of huge crowds of people, for that matter.
That didn't work out.
But here I am. So I think that I like to think that it's actually done more for me and getting me out of my shell, because I'm an extreme introvert, and big crowds scare me. So I'm actually learning a lot right now.
Yeah, I actually tried to make a video myself once just to get a feeling for what it takes, and I figured it's crazy hard to do it, and it takes a lot of time. What is your process in doing so? Are you just shooting what you want to show, or are you just rolling with it, or how do you go about making the video itself? That's what we see.
For me, I have the intention of, I want people to see the entire process, start to finish, every single piece, so that when they get to the end of it, there's like, well, that made sense except for, I don't know how he got from this to this. So my intention's always been to shoot everything and then leave a lot of it on the floor if you don't actually need it, but some stuff that, you know, some tasks or skills that I'm used to, somebody else may not be used to. So if I skip over a little thing that's simple to me, it may not be simple to somebody else. That could be the missing piece for them. So I'm trying to make sure I get everything, cut away what I don't need in the end.
Okay. So you're ending up with way more material, video footage than you need, and then you cut it all down.
Yeah. And I mean, over time I've learned a little bit more in the shooting process of what I don't need to capture, so I don't actually capture everything anymore, but I still try to make sure that I get every process, you know, every step to some degree, so people can see all the parts.
I feel like I try to film everything, because even if I'm doing the same repetitive cuts, I know that there's going to be one where I'm blocking the camera, and so I'm trying to still trying to figure out how to get the best shots. But I feel like with my videos, I'm such a beginner. I don't know what I'm doing a lot of the time. I'm using a tool for the first time. Like, I did a jigsaw project specifically because I had never used a jigsaw before. I'm like, okay, well, I have scrap wood, I have a jigsaw. literally anything I make, if I can make it, like everyone in this room can make it. Doesn't matter if you've never touched a tool before. Like, you can do it, and it'll probably look better than mine. And that is what I want to see. Like, I want to see. I love it when people go like, "Oh, I built the thing that you showed me, only I made it better." And I'm like, "Ah, oh, that's awesome!" Because there's a limit to how far I can think in advance. And as I'm going through the process, I just get really depressed at how things don't work. So, like, the best thing for me is having someone be like, I took your idea and I made it into something real. And, like, that's what I want.
It's like trying to weld a square frame for the first time, and every corner should be 90 degrees. Didn't work out for me. No,
everything that I've ever built comes out, like, 2 inches shorter and, like, 3 inches this way and all of the, but... The concept is sound. It just can't make straight cuts yet.
But you're also more material side of video.
Yeah.
How do you go about it?
How do I make videos? I try not to overthink it. I know that a lot of folks, they have a plan, that they're looking for something at the end. I don't ever do voiceovers because I don't want to actually see myself too long when I'm editing. And so literally I just grab my camera and I try to put it somewhere where the object is in focus, and I turn it on and we see what happens. And a lot of times when I'm watching the editing, I'm going, oh, I forgot I did that. And oh yeah, that worked out better than I remembered. So my process is horrible and I would not recommend it to anybody. But when I'm editing it, it feels like I'm sort of there again. Since I'm not talking about it afterwards, I'm only talking about things that happened at the time. So I guess the main question was, how do you make your videos? And I guess the answer is haphazardly.
Perfect.
Yeah, I know that a lot of folks like to edit video, and I hate it. I actually hate editing video, and my editing style has come from this aggressive hate of sitting in front of the computer and just cutting through as fast as I possibly can. And that's now a style. So.
I mean, it's nice because whatever you do on YouTube, as long as you have fun and you like what you're doing, you're gonna find someone that's gonna like it. So you don't have to try to think too much about it. You just have to, do what you like, and someone else is gonna like it. For me, for example, I know that I want to get one shot, whether it's like a slow motion or something, and then I try to build a story to get to that shot. Then that's it.
It's funny that most of you are having quite the material, I guess, hours on end for a video that ends up like 15 minutes or something, and that's exactly what Jimmy said, don't do it, right? He was on stage and said, well, if you start out, don't do too much material, which can work too. So also beginners that start out can work with that, but it's good to know that everybody has its own style and it's always working out.
I mean, people ask a lot of times if there's like what's a tip or what's a trick or what's the path or there isn't.
Yeah.
There's no way to do this, and we all do it differently. Everybody out here who makes videos does it differently. There's no right or wrong, and exactly what Giaco said is, do what you do, and there will be people who like what you do, and those are the people you want watching.
Yeah.
I think that the downside with having too much video is that you, especially with your first project, you get bogged down. You're just watching like 7 hours of video. What do I put in there? And you got to realize there are definitive steps. And you take those, and everything else is filler. And it's just maybe you like the way something looks, or I like to do all my chop saw cuts all in a row, just 0.3 seconds for each one, so it just goes through fast. But I think to what Jimmy was saying about not shooting so much video, it's just don't get bogged down. That's not the most important part. You're showing people what you do. Let them see it.
Yeah.
I think that's more important than anything else. It's because at the end of the day, it's sustainability. If we're talking about YouTube specifically, then it's sustainability. And if you're saying, well, what do you do to make it the way you make it? That's not the point. You're totally missing the point. What are you going to do so that you want to go and do it a second time? You finish the first one, and then you're like, this was miserable, I hated the entire process. You're not going to do it again. But I had a voiceover, I had the 3D effects on camera. If you like that, then do that. But don't do anything that you don't like. And I think for YouTube that matters. There are 1 billion users on YouTube. That means that if you want to start up a channel where you talk in a high-pitched voice and cut up gummy bears, there's viewers out there for you. And that is a large channel, by the way. If you feel like finding it, it is out there and he's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Do what you like, your subscribers will find you. Yeah.
How long are you cutting, roughly? I mean, from the material raw to done video, how long do you spend cutting? Time frame? An hour? 10?
We've got, I mean...
Yeah, how long are you editing?
It can be from 7 hours to 30 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
And it shows. Your videos are amazing, it shows.
It's so nice produced, yeah.
Yeah.
Like short films.
Max.
4 hours?
Max. If I hit 4 hours, then yeah, that's done. Even if it's not done.
Yeah, it varies. Mainly because it'll take me 3 weeks to do an edit, because I'll do an edit in 1 day and then procrastinate for 2.5 weeks because I hate doing voiceover. I just wait and I think about it and feel bad about it for 2.5 weeks, and then I do voiceover in like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
I think our edits are about 7-8 hours somewhere for the main edit, and then maybe an hour of coloring and an hour of voiceover. And we've got it kind of down to a pretty good pattern. I mean, like, I maybe do things a little bit differently in that I overplan and I have a schedule and I try to keep things, but I've got multiple people working on stuff to keep videos rolling out a week at a time, and so we've kind of got a pattern down that we follow every week.
Have you like any? I just go through the normal questions everybody wants to know. What's your favorite material? What's your favorite tool? Have you anything special what you wanted to say? Maybe. I know Boris is like crazy into brass.
I can say what my favorite tool is.
Yes.
And I think it's the camera.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't know how to use. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, what are you what aperture you use? I don't know, like, I have no idea. When it looks cool in the little screen, then I'm shooting. And that's really, like, the tool that I get, that I need more time to understand how it works, so it's my favorite. I would say so. Is that a tool?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I mean, at least you're not only making the project, but also the video, right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
definitely true.
I like resin.
Excuse me?
I said I like resin.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, for me, one of my favorite things is finding a material that I like. And I like to work with mixed materials, and I like to work with, one guy commented on my channel that made me happy. He says, you use the wrong material for the right project. So you make something simple, but you make it out of the wrong thing. And I love doing that. It's fun for me, and it's what makes me continue to go back out to the shop. You know, and I tend to favor the lathe, but making that, you know, coming out and pulling something out of a mold and looking at it and going, oh my gosh, that is so much more interesting than I ever expected it to be. Let's see if we can get it in one piece from this process to the end. So,
nice. I don't know if I have really a favorite material or a favorite tool. I feel like it's always the thing that I'm going to be doing next. Because I bounce around so much, and I'm not really married to any of the woodworking or metalworking or 3D printing or whatever. And so I think I'm always like in the middle of doing something going like, oh, that's going to be awesome. Like, I can't wait to do that thing.
Yeah.
Then when I get to that, I'm looking at the next thing.
Is there any like project that you haven't done yet which you would love to do? Something you ever always dreamed about, like building your own car or whatever, treehouse or something you haven't done yet, but it's been 4 years on your list?
Roller coaster.
Roller coaster, great. I want to ride it, even if it kills
You
me.
will.
awesome. You're gonna sell tickets?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'll be there.
I think for me, it's R2-D2.
Okay.
Yeah, like a full-size R2-D2, and it's been done. It's not like it's, you know, all the information's out there, but I've never done it, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's great, yeah.
I have a plan that I'm scared just start. I want to make an electric violin. In my past life, I was a classical violinist. I do have an electric, but my parents in their backyard, they have this beautiful black walnut tree, and it had to be felled. So I think that my project is going to start with a chainsaw and a log, and I'm going to end up with an electric violin. So now that I've said it out loud, I feel like now I have to do it. Like, I don't tell people, so I'm like, I never have to do it.
Everybody else does.
Perfect.
Anyone? Yes.
Mainly for Bob, but the rest can answer as well. When you were making things, when you're making things that for your kids, so like climbing walls and putting guns and things, how do you get over that thing of oh, I actually have to over-engineer this thing 1,000 times so that it doesn't kill my children? Or do you?
That's a good idea. I should probably think about that. I don't know. I don't try to over-engineer things for the kids because I don't over-engineer too much because I feel like I can re-engineer it anytime I want to. So if they break the climbing wall or they break the bunk beds or they break anything else, it gives me another video, you know? So, I mean, as long as, you know, I try to make things safe, obviously, but we probably don't have to build things as strong as we do in general. So, yeah, I don't really worry about it too much, to be honest.
It's funny that most projects don't really iterate on themselves, right? They got built once, and you're always fine with doing it another time.
Yeah.
You can just go for it another. Anyone else? Yes, please. Excuse me?
Favorite videos?
What's your favorite videos? Yeah.
That we've made, or
Yeah.
That we've all made.
that video we all made together.
Each one of our own favorite videos.
Okay,
That we were in.
my favorite video that I've made is probably something that nobody else likes, which was the video that I did making whipped cream in the shop, just because we had so much fun. If you haven't seen it, it was on Thanksgiving, which is something we celebrate in the States, and I got kicked out to the shop, and I decided to make whipped cream in the shop, and it was an absolute disaster, but I got to spend time with my brother-in-law and my father-in-law. My father-in-law is an engineer by trade, and he kept telling us the entire time, well, this is going to do this, and this is going to do that, and finally I just said, shut up, Bill, I want to see what happens. And it was a disaster. And then at the end he went, I told you it's going to be a disaster. And it's my favorite video.
That's awesome.
What's yours, Bob?
Thanks, Giaco. I think mine's probably the secret door, which is oddly how a lot of people found my channel, which is really cool. But it was the thing that I really like about it was because it was made for a friend of mine. They were pregnant with their first child, and they said, we're gonna have a kid, and we have this like attic space, and we want to make a secret door for him, so that when he's like 4 or 5 years old, he can find it by accident. And so I made it, and that was 3 years ago or something, and he still hasn't found it yet. And so that's really cool because I cannot wait to make the follow-up video about this kid just accidentally pulling a book, and there's a playroom like hidden in the house that just came from nowhere. That's so awesome. It still makes me excited.
There's a camera set up, right?
Do what?
Is the camera set up already?
Not yet, but they're going to kind of lead him to it, so we're going to set it up.
Cool,
Yeah.
Great.
Still pausing.
What about you, Giaco?
Well, the favorite video I made is I made a 30 days challenge with David Welder, and I was making a video every day. And one of them was me going to buy milk, and that's my favorite video. I know it's not that exciting, but it was really, like, I really like it, and it's been watched like 10,000 times. It's like the least watched video in my channel. But if you go now to watch, no, but I mean it's my favorite for many reasons. I really like that. I go buy milk.
I think my favorite video was, again, something that people don't really seem to care about. Well, that's fine. But I built this, I call it a rolly table. It's a table that comes off of itself, so you can sit on the rolling part in this little table. The reason why it's my favorite is it's this idea that I've had in my head for years, and I don't sketch, I don't draw, I don't model, because I don't know how. And every time I draw something, I'm like, I don't know what that's supposed to be. So I just had to start cutting pieces of wood and arranging them, and I'd hot glue them in place, be like, no, that's not gonna work. So, I mean, the whole build took me like 3 days. I was in the shop for 16 hours, 3 days in a row, and I finally came up with this thing that there are 2 pieces, they fit together and it rolls, and I was so happy, and people were like, yeah, cool, yeah, you know, this thing. It's like, well, I'm proud of it, you know, whatever. I'm so proud of myself for that thing.
Nice.
It's a cool project. Is there anything where you would like to, anyone who you would like to collaborate with? Somebody you haven't had the chance to collaborate with yet? Line up,
I'm actually
please.
scared of collaboration.
Oh, okay.
Collaborations at this point kind of frighten me because I've had a couple people approach me. I'm like, you don't understand how, like, I will cut 3 pieces of plywood and then spend the next hour on the floor crying because none of the pieces are straight. Like, it's a whole process for me where there's just a lot of frustration and kicking of things, and the idea of doing that with someone in the room is just terrifying. So, in like another 2 to 10 years, I'll be able to collaborate.
But it's cool that you say this because I guess it's everyone's first steps, right?
Yeah.
I've done a lot of collaboration videos. I feel like I've done a lot of collaboration videos, and they're always fun, but they do add a little extra stress. And we just recently, Mrs. Brown and I recently did an upcycle challenge, and one of my thoughts was it would be fun if somebody came from someplace else and had an extra day that I'd love to do a collaboration video in that style with somebody. And I think like it would be less pressure than trying to make a perfect project in one day.
Yeah.
And I think that's terrifying. Because then you have to plan, and I'm not a planner, you know.
Yeah.
So to just kind of do something ad hoc with somebody, yeah.
Yeah, I like that we've recently seen some collaborations that went in the style where someone did a part and then passed it on. That was great. And
Those are really hard. Those are really hard. They take a long time.
Okay. Yeah. I guess so. Yeah. Anyone else?
I want to collaborate. I want to collaborate with anyone. Like even smaller channel, Geerdink 32, which is even smaller, like really small channel. I would like to do collaboration as long as they have good ideas and stuff. Because sometimes I get approached by small channels and they go like, I would like to do a channel. Do you have any ideas? Or like, if I have to do everything, you know. It's not worth it, but if we do something cool together, collaborations are really cool.
Yeah.
So, as long as they make sense.
Anyone? Yes. I hope this doesn't start too bad.
You guys, well, some of you at least had day jobs before you got into YouTube. If it didn't work out, did you have a plan B to fall back on?
I think I'm the only one here with a day job still, right? I'm the only one with a day job? All right, so the question's to you guys.
I mean, we have day jobs. There's YouTube is the day job.
It's not our side hustle.
I mean, for me, I kind of did. Like, I could go back to software. In the software industry, if you step out of it for 6 months, you are basically out of it. So it would take, the equivalent of going back to college for 2 years for me to get caught up, I think. But it is a possibility. But I think, like, whatever you're doing for your side hustle, the thing that a good way to do a side hustle is to make sure that there's a skill set there that can be applied outside of content. So if you're making a YouTube channel about building houses and it doesn't work, you can go build houses. That's not a bad thing. So I think, like, probably any of us, the skills that we're picking up through these videos and the things that we're learning how to do, any of those could be a potential path for an alternative career if we had to,
I think that's a really fair point. Like, I always thought that, I don't really plan to begin with, so if you don't have a plan A, then you definitely don't have a plan B. But I always thought that it would be really cool to work with a construction company for a while and, like, build a house, which is something I've never done. and I think that would be fun. But then anything in the trades, I think I find really interesting. I spent like 20 minutes watching these guys in Boston who had just poured a concrete sidewalk and they're troweling it. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And they're like, what do you want? Like they're like, don't walk in it. And I was like, no, I'm just here to watch.
Did you start whistling?
I did. I was like, hey, sailor. But yeah, I don't know. I think that I feel like so many of us we're doing it because we find it interesting, and if you're doing something random like making YouTube videos to find it interesting, there's probably a lot of other things you find interesting, and if YouTube didn't work out, you go do something else. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I hope it's not too near to the speaker. I'm gonna try. Can you maybe come over a bit? We'll try.
Would you choose a different job other than YouTube? Job.
If you could, would you choose another job than YouTube? Would you switch it up for anything else?
Preferable?
No.
Well, that's a no.
Yeah, no.
I guess not.
Not now. Yeah. Not now, I guess. Like, I think we all can choose another job if we want. But, yeah. So far, so good.
Until I can make a job out of just driving around the country and exploring abandoned buildings, like that would be like my dream. But until I can figure out how to monetize that, YouTube.
YouTube sounds like a pretty good way to monetize that. I mean, honestly.
I'd
I'll
watch
get
it.
there. I'll get there someday.
I mean, honestly, no. I have the coolest job in the world, and I am unbelievably knocked off my feet when I actually think about it. I get to make anything I want to any day of the week, and I get paid to do it. It's amazing. I wouldn't trade that for anything. It's awesome.
To have fun.
Yeah, and it's fun.
That's interesting because I have not given up my 9 to 5 and I still have a day job, and it's because I love to get stressed out. It's like a hobby for me, and I know that if I quit my job and went into YouTube full time, YouTube would be miserable. I would be the best at making YouTube miserable. And so I'd rather just keep the thing that already is miserable, which is work, and keep YouTube fun, because, yeah, I know I'd just be like, woo, I hate this.
One question I always ask myself when I see videos like awesome builds of yours, what's your biggest mess up? I mean, yes, please.
Turning candy on the wood lathe right before I drilled it on the drill press and cut it on the bandsaw. It was really neat, and then it melted into a pile, and then it took us 24 hours to clean it up.
Perfect.
And I put ads on the video, and that paid for all the solvent that we needed to clean all the candy off. And I had people just beside themselves with my shop. They had nothing to do with it, telling me how sad they were for my tools, what a horrible person I was. And I went up on Instagram and I posted pictures of all the tools as they got cleaned to just kind of ease people's minds, and it wasn't enough, so I had to make a whole cleanup video just to let people know everything's okay. It's all gonna work out.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a disaster, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, I still have, in my shop, I still find like stains of whipped cream and eggs everywhere, like on my microphone and everything, so that was the biggest mess up. I basically shot with a Nerf dart eggs and whipped cream and soda cans, everything. It's still there somewhere. All of that is still somewhere in my shop.
It was so good.
But it was great to watch.
Yeah, it was.
My biggest mess up, which is something that I has still not come to fruition, because I was trying to make, so Ben bought me a really nice electric keyboard. It's weighted keys. I was super stoked. I was like, I'm going to build like a desk that incorporates it, so you can actually like, has a roll top and you can use it as a desk and open it up and there's piano inside, and I cut like 7,000 angled pieces of plywood. And then I was like, you know, I really should have cut them like 1 inch longer. And the next day I drove from Boston to California and I haven't been back since. So that's still a work in progress. But I'm getting the keyboard and bringing it back to Joshua Tree, and we'll see what happens.
This sounds weird, but I can't really think of a just huge mess up that just totally failed. No, hang on. There's a lot of problems along the way, but when I see a problem happening, I tend to change directions. You know, like I don't go like, oh no, it exploded all over the shelf. I don't know. I tend to like once I see something starting to fail, I kind of like adjust, so I don't have any big failures. Is that cheating to say that?
No, it's fair.
Sorry.
I think it's always okay to just switch directions, right?
Yeah.
Make it work. What do you think is like the best part of making on YouTube itself? Is it really the creation of the video you're having, or the interaction with people like Pierre, or what is your main motivation to keep at it?
Comments.
Comments.
For me, comments. I am at a point where I cannot respond to every single comment, but I still read every single comment. And I love it. It's like this endorphin rush. I'll get up in the morning and I'll open up, I'm sleeping, trying to wake myself up, and so I'll open up YouTube and I'll start reading through the comments. And I'll like, oh, good comment, you suck, good comment. And it just makes me, you know, happy that there's people out there not only watching, and then every once in a while somebody goes, I made that. I'm like, why did you do that? That's crazy. And the other thing is, almost all of my really good ideas come from YouTube comments. Okay, so look, YouTube is a platform so that we can interact with our viewers. That is the reason it exists. If I'm not going to interact with my viewers, then why am I making videos on YouTube? Why don't I just publish them on a platform that broadcasts them? You know, or turn off the comments altogether. So, you know, and I'll jump in, I get a comment every once in a while, the person says, you'll probably never read this, but, and that's like a trigger for me. And so then I'll go in and go, oh yeah, well, here I am. Yeah, thank you for the idea. I love it. And that is the motivation to do more, for me personally.
I think kind of along that same lines, I mean, some of the comments are tough and everything, but I think the real life comments or the emails I get from people that say things like, you know, our kids, like we get together as a family and we watch your videos because it's one of the few things that all of us can be interested in at the same time and watch. And I'm like, okay. If it gets a family together for 15 minutes once a week or something to do something, then I need to make at least another one, right? And then, you know, people say they've decided to look into engineering school, or whatever. When people are talking about something that you did for the fun of it had a positive effect on my family or on my life, or made me decide this instead of that, then like I have to keep doing them. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. Like I get emails or on Instagram and stuff, I get like pictures of people that make what I made, and that's like crazy. It's like I did something that people liked and they tried to make it like, you know, I can't express that. It's crazy. That's why I do it, I think. Inspiration.
Cool,
Yeah, I think my best performing video this far has just been this really simple blanket box that just, it looks great, like really for no other reason than that the wood is pretty. It's so simple, but I've had a bunch of people contact me and tell me that they made it and then used it as a toy box for their kids. And that's like, when we were growing up, my dad had made a wooden box. We called it the food box because we used to take it camping. We put all the food in it. But growing up, it was where my sister and I kept our dress-up clothes. And we have still always called it the food box. Where's the dress-up clothes? In the food box. But to me, so this blanket box that I made that people are now keeping their children's toys in feels like I just did like what my dad did, basically, you know, 40 years ago. So I was pretty stoked about that. And, yeah.
Another yes back there. Maybe you can shout it out. Yeah. Was there any project that you couldn't do in the last minute, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
I totally have. Yes, absolutely. Mine was the Jurassic Park lathe jewel thing that I made. It took 2 years to make, not because of anything other than the fact that I couldn't find the little bugs to fill up the thing. And I ran out of them. And I made 10 blanks total. And I ruined 8 of them. And I was down to 2, and I needed 2. And at that point, I was just like, okay. And all my confidence just sank down. You know, it was just like, it's over, it's done, 2 years in the making, and I'm going to destroy it. And I have a clip that I won't show anybody, and it's a panic attack at the lathe. I'm turning, and I start to hear this chatter, and I have a full-blown panic attack at the lathe. Like, freaking out, screaming at the blank, yelling at the lathe, telling it it's its fault that Pocket's not going to get his thing. And then it all just works out beautifully, you know, and I went, okay, well, maybe I should just calm down the next time. But, yeah, I guess the answer is 60% of my projects. Have you ever had a project that was going well and then you got to a point where it was beginning to fail and you didn't think you would recover, but you recovered and everything worked out fine?
Yeah, 90%.
90%. So are Evan and Caitlin out here? I saw them a minute ago. Evan and Caitlin. Well, anyway.
Not right now.
Evan and Caitlin came to my house when we built a ping pong table together. And they were going to do a whole separate project to make a leather net. It was really cool. Had this whole table planned out. We had to order special sized plywood because ping pong tables are like 5 by 9. We got walnut for these separators. We cut all these walnut pieces. We ripped them down, and we're like moving along. And then we go to start putting all this stuff that's very square together, and I realized that every piece of walnut that we have, if you look down it, one side's straight and the other side goes like that. And so when you start pushing these things together, nothing will close, nothing will line up. And we were 3 or 4 days into this collab, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. How do you go around that? Like, it has to be a certain size. We can't just make everything smaller. And somehow, I really don't know how we did it, but somehow we were able to get all those pieces down to the right straight size, and all the sides were parallel and everything. But there was like halfway through the week where I'm like, these people flew here to do something. They have their own project that they haven't even gotten to start on yet because they're helping me, and somehow I screwed up this stuff, and this whole thing's gonna fail. I need to pay for their plane tickets. I need to, I was just like, oh, this is awful. But it turned out to be awesome, like in the very last minute, and I really don't know how, but it did.
We've got only 2 minutes left, yes?
What was the first and most important power tool or whatever bigger tool that you used to do the first most important steps on the first projects? The most important tool that helped you with everything?
Me?
Sure. For me, it was the milling machine. Because actually it was my first project. I had like a rounded piece of metal. I cut holes in it. That became a fidget spinner. That is like my most popular video. So that was definitely it.
I got a love affair with the lathe, but I don't know if it's the most important. It's the most distracting. I don't know if it's the most important.
Just one? I mean, I build around 3 specific tools, and I could go without the sander, but I don't think I would want to go without the drill and the circular saw.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of them as like a package deal, and you can make just about anything with those 2 things. Doesn't mean it'll be gorgeous, but you can do it.
I think for me, it was probably not the first tool, but when I got a substantial table saw that didn't move with the wood, 'cause for so long I'm like pushing the tool and the wood at the same time down the driveway. And once I got one that was heavy and it stayed in place and it was square, everything felt so much safer, and like I felt like I kind of knew what I was doing all of a sudden just because the tool wasn't moving.
You don't get a trick where when I'm tailing at the table saw for Ben, like I'm standing on one side as he starts pushing it through, and then I'm catching it and he gets closer and stands on the other side. It's very safe. Don't try that at home.
Guys, unfortunately we ran out of time. And I would say if you're up to it, yes please.
Can I ask something to everyone? How many of you
It's not us.
How many of you have a YouTube channel now? Okay.
That's a lot.
How many would like to start one?
Yeah.
Just do
That's
it.
awesome. Let's talk.
Are you up for a chat afterwards? Maybe over there or somewhere?
Yeah.
Great. So, thanks a lot.